This is Mr. Wright. Today we are going to talk about congruence within polygons. So first we have to know how congruent statements work. So this reads triangle ABC is congruent to triangle KRS. So the important thing about congruent statements is the order of the letters matters. It tells you what pieces match up. So for example, because A is the first letter, that's going to match up with K. So that means that angle A would match up with angle K. Angle B would match up with angle R, and angle C would match up with angle S. So corresponding angles or matching angles are going to be congruent. So the order of those letters matters in that statement. Then the corresponding sides also are going to match up. So like AB, the first two letters are going to match up with KR, the first two letters in the other one. The second two letters, BC, are going to match up with RS, the second two letters. Then like the first and the third letters, A and C, are going to match up with K and S, just like that. So if you look at a congruent statement, it can tell you what are all of the matching or corresponding parts in those two shapes. So with congruent shapes, all of the sides and all of the angles must be congruent. So there has to be congruency marks on the picture. So for example, this first one, I have two trapezoids. So I see all four angles have congruency marks, and then three of the sides have congruency marks, but the fourth side is a shared side. So because there's no congruency marks there, that's okay because that is shared between the two shapes. So there is enough information to prove congruence because all of the sides and all of the angles are congruent. So in this one, those two trapezoids, so I could say like trapezoid VEMK is congruent to trapezoid. If I did VEMK, I could do VEPC. So when you name it, you just make sure that those angles match up the same way. In the second picture, there's only congruency marks on the sides, not on the angle. I'm sorry, only on the angles, not on the sides. So there's not enough info to prove congruent. So you need all of the angles and all the sides. This last example, all three sides have congruency marks. Two of the angles have congruency marks, but my vertical angles would also be congruent even if they're not labeled. So you have to look for like other things that could like make something also congruent even if it's not labeled. So that would also work. So I could say triangle ABE is congruent to triangle. So when you write your statement, you got to make sure like your angles match up. So like angle A and angle D are congruent. So I would start with D. B and C are congruent, so then do C and then come back to E. So just make sure they match up the same way. So then we could also use, once we like add numbers, what you want to do is just use your congruency statements to help you like fill in the picture. And then like just know that like anything that matches up, you can set equal to each other and solve it. So in like this example, I know that like X matches up with M. So if X is 33, M is 33. So those two are corresponding angles. If N is 124, then Y would also be 124. If you look at your sides, let's see, so this side, NM, is these two letters, the first two letters, so that's going to match up with YX. So these two sides are corresponding, so they would also be 8. See another one. LN is, let's see, LN is the last two letters. That's going to match up with YZ at the bottom. So that would be 12. So you just want to use your congruency statement to help you match up what are the corresponding parts in order to fill in the pictures. And then you should be able to answer the questions once you do that. Like a problem like this, the next one, you're doing the same thing, but you have to solve for like X and Y. So like QR, this side is the last two letters. That's going to match up with FG. So my equation would be this, 2x minus 4 equals 12, because those are corresponding sides. So then you could just solve for x. And then like if I was solving the other one, once I find x, I plug that in. But this is angle Q, so that's going to match up with angle F. So I would do these two are equal to each other, and you can solve for y. So you just are using this statement to help you figure out like what matches up, and then that's going to be equal. So here's another example. Angle H is 4x plus 5. H matches up with F. So my equation would be 4x plus 5 equals 105. And I can solve for x. If they don't give you a picture, you just want to make sure you draw the picture first. So if you're drawing the picture, just make sure that you label it the same way. So LMN, so I'm going to do LMN is congruent to triangle PQR. So you just want to label it PQR. So that way you know like which letters match up. So like L matches up with P. M matches up with Q, and N matches up with R. So that way when you fill in your picture, it'll make it easier to solve. That's how congruence works.